regular meeting of the Township of Belleville's Zoning Board of Adjustment for June 1st, 2017 will come to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Casa,
Here.
Lozell. Here. Lefucci.
Here.
Sheldon.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Milano. Del Garcia.
Here. Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, has notice of this meeting been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law?
Certification of meeting has been advertised according to the Sunshine Law.
Okay. I assume there's no applicants for adjournment, so there's only one case.
No.
Resolutions to be memorialized.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we got the minutes.
ZB 2017-08, 349 Ralph Street, Mary Ann Cologne. Lozell.
Yes.
Lefucci.
Yeah.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. Okay, does anyone want to approve the minutes or amend them?
Motion to move the minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Bolano with no
changes.
Seconded by Mr. Smith. Clerk, call the roll.
Casa.
Yes.
Lozell.
Yes.
Lefucci.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. Okay. I gotta tell you guys something. Anyway. Okay, the first and only case on our agenda tonight is ZB 2017-002, 130 William Street, J.C. Bell Limited Liability. Applicant is proposing to utilize an existing two-story building as a two-family residential building. This is the finishing of the case that we started on 3/2/17. Mr. Gassion.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
As you know, I represent the applicant J.C. Bell, LLC, owners of 130 William Street. As you indicated, the application started a number of months ago, and presentation was made by my associate, Michael Piramali. The witnesses you heard from that evening were Charles Lee of J.C. Bell, LLC, and the architect, James McKnight, who also gave some planning testimony. This evening, I plan to recall Mr. Lee, and you will also hear from a planner, Paul Baumann. Mr. Lee will address the parking agreement with St. Peter's Church and his agreement with the adjacent property owner. Mr. Baumann will review the history of the site, the pre-existing variances, and the parking issue.
Now, Mr. Gassion,
Yes, sir.
did you say you did not review the tape of the meeting?
I did not.
Okay. I want to put on the record that I had Ms. Laska, whatever. I had her review it, so that way she would be able to participate in the case tonight. I am also asking our attorney to go over his notes of what was presented at that meeting, so you know what was presented.
I'm completely familiar with what was presented. I read every note from the file, which was done by my associate. Every question that was asked, everything that was said.
But you did not look at the video.
That's right. That's not a requirement for me.
I understand.
It's his choice.
But I would like him to bring up what he has as his notes.
Well, if you want him to bring it up, that's fine. I don't need it for my purposes.
I understand.
And my position is, if he doesn't need it, let's move on. Listen, he's a lawyer.
Well, since you're calling another planner, I would like him to list what the planner testified to.
It's on the record already, whatever he testified to.
I know, but you're saying you didn't even, well, you're saying you're going by the notes.
Right.
I'm going by the notes. That's correct.
Okay.
If there are any new exhibits, Mr. Gassion, we are up to A4. We had 3 exhibits marked on March 2nd, and you're correct, Mr. Lee testified, Mr. McKnight testified as an architect in the plan. And he touched on the parking, and he touched on the variances, and that's pretty much it.
You may proceed.
Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee, consider yourself still under oath from the March 2nd meeting.
Yes.
Okay, and Charles Lee, you are the applicant and the property owner, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lee, since the last hearing, did you have a conversation with Reverend Ivan Scabaris of St. Peter's Church?
Yes.
And in the course of that conversation, did he indicate that you could use his lot at certain times to park 2 vehicles for residents at your building?
Yes.
And did he give you a letter to that effect?
Yes.
And is this that letter?
Yes.
You want me to read it into the record, or do you want me to just turn it in?
Well, I would turn it in and let the members review it.
Okay, I'd like to mark
And
this
mark it as evidence.
as
A4.
A4.
Yeah, I think we're going to want a copy of it, but if someone wants to just read it so we can all hear it at once, that would be easier than...
You want me to read it into the record?
Yeah, just put it on the record and then we can pass this around.
Kindly be advised that I have been approached by Mr. Charles Lee in regard to his request to turn 130 William Street from a one-family to a two-family home. The property is located only half a block from the property of St. Peter's Church. I understand that one of the concerns is parking. Please be advised of the following. During the day, parking is normally light on the street in front of our rectory. Should there be a need for future tenants to park on parish grounds, I would be willing to permit 2 vehicles to park in one of our 2 parking lots, except when snow plowing of lots is in progress. This would be a gentleman's agreement between myself and the owner of the property for the good of the local community and the neighborhood. And I would prefer not to enter into a formal lease. Please feel free to contact me with any questions you might have about the matter. Sincerely yours in Christ, Father Ivan Scabaris, pastor of St. Peter's Church.
Any other testimony from the applicant?
Yes. Did you also talk to the adjacent property owner about an issue raised at the last meeting with regard to emergency access?
Yes.
And did he tell you that you could use his property and allow a gate to be installed so that someone could leave this property through his property?
Yes.
And I show you a letter dated April 25, 2017. Is this the letter you received from the adjacent property owner?
Yes.
I'd like to mark this as
A5.
A5, and if you would like this is much shorter, I will read this into the record also. In regards to the above-mentioned property, the neighbor at 132 William Street in Belleville, Mr. Herman Arson Tallies, has agreed to allow us to use his backyard as an exit in case of an emergency from our property, by allowing us to install a gate from our property into his property for emergency circumstances. It's signed by Mr. Herman Arson Tallies and signed by Mr. Lee. I have no further questions.
No. Any questions of the witness?
I guess he has something different from his previous testimony.
Well,
And that's what
he has the 2 agreements, that's it.
So I wouldn't really call it an agreement.
Because they're not binding.
In our mind, they mean, you know, they're letters, that's it. They're not agreements.
No, but what you're saying is they're not enforcing.
No, not at all.
And it's not required of any future owner of the property.
And I don't even, you know, the first one from the church, it's not a legal document, it's just, you know,
It's a letter. If
That's
the
it.
board wants to condition the approval on an easement with the adjacent property owner, the adjacent property owner is willing to enter into an easement agreement.
the easement is just, and you're speaking of is for that fence.
For access,
Right, yeah.
correct.
Not for me.
Okay, any members,
I don't get it.
questions? No. You may call your next witness.
Okay, Mr. Baumann.
regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you may give shall be the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Could you state your name, please?
The name is Paul Baumann. The last name is spelled B as in boy, A-U-M-A-N.
And you're a licensed land use planner, I believe?
Yes.
And your license is still in effect?
Yes.
And we accept you as an expert because you've been before so many times.
Thank you.
First time he's been here is my expert.
Really?
Really?
Yep. First time, as Maya, he was here for other attorneys, but never before for me.
You sure?
Why
It's
should
hard to believe because he's been so many times here and you've been here so many times.
I know, Mr. Chairman, I know I'm getting old, but I am not senile. I do remember this.
Twins? Go ahead.
Mr. Baumann, would you please review the history of the property?
Yes, this property was constructed as a building in 1877, which is 140 years ago. None of us were around back then either.
Even me.
And since being constructed, it's been used as a store.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lano?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little confused here. So, you brought Mr. Baumann, as you alluded to earlier, to clear up some questions that were raised, right?
I brought the applicant up to clear up two issues that were raised.
Okay.
I brought Mr. Baumann up to present planning testimony, and I understand that the architect taught as a planner, but that doesn't prohibit me from bringing up 10 different planners.
I'm asking what his purpose is, that's it. So he's looking to me here at planning,
Complete planning testimony with regard to the issues of the case.
okay? Yeah.
Mr. Baumann, would you continue, please, and give the history of the property?
Yes, as I mentioned, it was constructed in 1877. Since its construction, it's been used as a store plus a single-family residence during the period of 1920 through 1986. That's a period of 66 years. And most recently as a two-family residence since 1987 to the present. That's 30 years. According to the Belleville's tax records, the property has been taxed as a two-family dwelling since 1987. The applicant requires several bulk variances.
Before you get into the variances, would you review the surrounding area?
Sure. The property in question is on a substandard lot surrounded by many other substandard lots in a RB zone where 1, 2, and multifamily houses are permitted. I've prepared a handout which I'm going to give them now.
Yeah.
It'd be A6.
I have a multitude, so whatever the board wishes.
G Mark 1 is A6, and hand out the rest if you would. Thank you.
Wait for a minute for the board to get the privilege of looking at.
Are we going for a variance here or non-conforming use?
No, variance.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
my question was, are we going for a variance or a non-conforming use?
It's a C application, bulk variances.
Right, because why I'm asking that question, is it just got...
No certification involved.
Okay.
No,
because-
but you are asking to change it back to a two-family.
This is a variance
It
for it to
never
be a
was a
two-family.
legal
Yes,
two-family.
but legally, it's only a one-family.
No,
No,
That was the
Di
testimony at the
Lorenzo.
last hearing.
right,
Mr. Di Lorenzo's records indicate it's a legal one family.
Yes, okay.
and so when his testimony says it was used, you don't mean legally, do you?
No,
Okay, that's all I know.
Tax records show it as a two-family for 30
And
years.
you know what?
Right.
You know,
We understand that.
so that's why I asked, because he said it was used as a two-family for 30 years. He made it a point for us to know that. And usually when you make that point, I've been in front of you many times, you...
Well, on the certifications, I make it clear what it is. This is just
Okay,
a lot of evidence having to do with why we think the application should be
gotcha,
approved.
thank you.
Mr. Baumann, what can we call A6?
it's a colorized, shrunken version of the tax map showing several blocks, inclusive of block 7601. For
Sure, he
purpose-
just wants a short version.
Yeah,
too.
colorized lots and area.
Yeah, colorized version of the tax map.
What do the colors mean since that's not on this page.
That's right. The, let's call it pink or lavender or whatever color,
Pink, pink's good.
Magenta.
are all the existing two-family residences,
Okay.
inclusive of one two-unit condo that's designated by the word condo. In green is a three-family residence, which is next door to the property in question. There are two four-family residences, one a couple of doors down to the east, going towards Washington Avenue, and another one on Dow Street next to the St. Peter's parking area. And the purpose of this is to demonstrate, by what I said before, that there's always been, since 1920, two uses on this property, whether they be store and dwelling or two dwelling units. Not necessarily legal, according to zoning purposes, but there's always been more than one occupant in the building. The applicant requires several bulk.
The the store was legal, was it not?
Yes,
So there was a legal use on the first floor, a legal use on the second floor, am I
correct, correct.
Now, would you review the bulk variances?
Bulk variances that we require are lot area, lot width, front yard setback, side yard setback, lot coverage, and now these are all pre-existing conditions, and I believe the board can grant variances based on the fact of the existing building on the lot, the size and shape of the lot. Those are all the criteria covered by NJSA 4055D 70C1 for purposes of granting a C variance on the aforementioned bulk variances. There's one other point to that. If you look at the map that I've given you, there is no available vacant land that can be purchased to make the lot more conforming in width or area, or to improve the yards or setbacks, or to lessen the percentage of lot coverage. So this is a situation where it is what it's been for many a year prior to now. And it can't be changed based on the fact that the existing uses are there, occupying all
If I may.
20 properties.
Mr. Valano?
Mr. Castro, so, Mr. Ballard, so are you saying to me that since 1857?
1877.
1860, you believe that house hasn't changed in its makeup, you know?
I can't go back
I'm
prior to 1920. I
Okay.
can
Let's go
only
from-
document
So
from
1920, you don't
1920.
think nothing was changed?
Since 1920, I've given you the changes.
Yeah.
Uh,
And, no, since 1920, right, nothing of the structure was changed, like, you know, things closed in, things of that nature.
There was a roof permit acquired.
Not everything's done legally, you know that. Not everything is done legally, right? Because if, as you know, you can't get off the lot to begin with. So do you believe there was parking on that premises at one time or not?
No.
You don't believe so?
Yeah, I
Have you
disagree.
gone there and looked at the property?
That's, yeah,
Have you gone in the backyard?
Yeah,
Have you looked through the sliding doors?
No.
okay.
No. Okay. Second question. When you were in front of the building, did you notice the curb cut?
Yes.
What would that indicate?
It could have been a curb cut for a garage access or
Okay, so there was
a
park,
horse and buggy or something.
okay.
A horse and buggy. Okay, I'll go for that.
But
That's the same
it
thing as a
doesn't matter.
car.
It
Go ahead.
doesn't matter. My point was, I don't concur with your analysis that there was never an ability to park on that premise. I think there was.
And
I'm sorry.
and not to interrupt.
You don't concur with his analysis that what, Mr.
That
Long?
there was never an ability to park on that block. And he says no. And I say, I disagree respectfully. I believe there was. As my colleague says, there's a curb cut there, and if you look at the structure itself, I think there was a garage or something there, and it could have been utilized for parking. That's my opinion.
But also, where the curb cut is where the storefront was made. Am I correct? It's obvious from looking at it.
And look, right. So
That doesn't, you're, I think, trying to conclude something that is speculation, not
what are you
fact.
doing? What are you doing?
I can't. I don't speculate.
You said to me, no. There was never any parking there. I said, I respectfully disagree. 'Cause
Since
you-
1920, there's no documentation to support that argument.
No.
That's why I'm saying.
But there's a curb cut there. And the store looks like it's a converted garage.
He's going by construction.
I know, and I said to him, you can't go by all the time, because you know and I know, just like a lot of uses were used there illegally, such as a two-family for 30 years, your testimony, not mine, right?
That's correct, sir. But that's why I'm saying, I can't speculate what was there before what I
You
can
speculated.
document.
I would accept that I can't speculate, but you said no. There's a difference between I can't speculate, Mr. Vinyl, and no, there wasn't. Big difference. All right, yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Back to Mr. Gassion.
Again, my witness is obviously going by the records available. And the permit history just shows 3 permits because it was built so long ago. But it goes back to 1920, and it says in 1920 the use was a store and a dwelling. 1920.
Now also, Mr.
I don't
Gassion,
know, I know it's a curb cut, don't misunderstand me, but it doesn't make much sense that there weren't cars too much before 1920. So what was there, I have no idea.
Maybe he's right, what's the money?
but there's something else you have to remember, Mr. Gassion. In our town, if a person who has a one-family house, certain professions, and maybe back then even businesses, were allowed on the first floor of a one-family house. To this day, if a doctor owns a house, he's allowed to have a profession on the first floor. It's in our ordinance.
But this shows store. It
Well,
never
I
shows,
understand, but back then it could have just been a family store.
which I would think it was a store. Maybe the family lived upstairs. That was probably fairly normal. I know Paganelli's, when I was a kid on Garden Ave, store was on the first floor, family lived upstairs.
Well, Mr. Gassion, when this was listed for sale, it shows that there was 3 bedrooms upstairs. This is the permit listed. It was listed as 3 bedrooms upstairs. Which means
I don't
that,
understand the relevance of that. I'm sorry.
because that would mean the kitchen and any living room would have to be on the first floor if you have 3 bedrooms upstairs. There's not enough room for more rooms upstairs.
There's nothing in the records that
I'm talking
indicate-
about when it was sold, when it was on Zillow,
Okay,
when it was put
whatever-
up for sale.
Whatever you saw, I'm saying is not supported by the records of the township of Belleville. That's all. I'm going by the records of the township.
All right, does the township have a diagram of the plans for the building of what was there? Yes or no? Very simple question.
I don't know.
Yes, they do. I pulled the property tax record from our tax assessor's office. They have I have a diagram here dated 1981, which shows that the unit in the back, which has the sliding doors, according to the ground floor plan sketch, was listed as a shed.
A shed?
A shed. If you'd like to see this, I'll just pass this on.
Yes, you could, well, I would give it to Mr. Gassion to look at first.
I have the tax, are you taking that from the tax records?
Yes, the
I
tax
have the
record,
tax.
yes.
All right, pass it over then, if he has the same thing.
Your eyes must be better than mine, but I see something at the far rear of the property. I guess that's what you're saying says shed.
The back unit is marked as shed.
That's
Back, well, I think that's further back than what exists today.
I think the shed is the section, that's the part of the building, the back part of the building, which is only one story and has the sliding doors.
Is this still exist?
We had a passport picture. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. So let's call it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. There it is, yeah, right here.
Pardon?
It should be a building on the first floor, the second one is not this. This is not the second floor.
I'm having trouble reading. If your version is easier to read, I'd like to see it, because I can't. I don't see shed on here.
Mr. Delgertia,
Yeah.
Mr. Reagan have it.
Yeah, it does say that. This one does, but that's not the town.
No, I-
Thank you. What I read on the little back pieces seems to be saying 1 story. The little back piece is 1 story. The next 2 pieces diagrammed are 2 stories. That's what I see.
I must have a different page, because it's a ground sketch plan, and the back unit is
Okay,
marked as a shed.
got a different one.
Yes, that's the, you see the back unit is marked as a shed.
I got one that says shed now, but it seems like it's, the building is, they're showing the building attached, not a shed, but I don't know the answer to that. But whatever, it's still first floor only, and there still are 2 stories shown in both those diagrams for the front 2 pieces you see.
During the previous testimony, if I remember correctly, Mr. Palomari mentioned that there might be plans down the road to extend the back of the current building over that 1 story.
On the second floor, yes, I remember that.
There's no, this application has nothing to do with any application to expand anything.
All right, so where are we? Mr. Baumann was talking about his opinion.
He was about to get
on site
into a
parking.
discussion of the parking variance.
Okay.
Mr. Baumann, would you review the parking variance, and would you give the board the benefit of a potential theory for the curb cut having to do with the business use on the first floor?
Yes, I didn't mention it before because I didn't think the board thought that there was any relevance to it, but in theory, when there was a storefront on the first floor, it could be that that curb cut was created to allow access for truck delivery of some type that I can't document, I don't theorize. But I guess none of us present in this room tonight can say they ever saw a garage there, ever saw trucks there. So I can't speculate, I can only theorize, as you are, as a board, theorizing what was there.
Okay.
So I don't know what to say other than what I've said. I can't prove one way or the other. Now regarding parking, your ordinance requires for a 2-family house 4 parking spaces on site. We do not have the ability to do that because there's no room in the way the property is configured with its adjoining properties to get anything in the backyard other than by walking it through the house. The applicant, as prior testimony was given, has acquired an informal agreement with the parish priest at St. Peter's, to provide for 2 parking spaces on either of their 2 parking lots, except when snow is being plowed. I point out to the board there are many single-family, 2-family, and multifamily residences in the immediate area that have no on-site parking. That's one of the purposes of that handout of the colorized tax map. These are all multifamilies or 2-families that have no parking. They are undersized lots, cannot accommodate parking because of their lot widths or their proximity to other properties that blocks them from getting cars in and out of the site. So this is not something that's going to create a new precedent in this neighborhood. It's already there. There's a multitude of them that I've outlined in that handout. It's a common characteristics of the surrounding neighborhood, and I believe it's probably, if not the oldest, it's one of the oldest neighborhoods in Belleville. As a matter of fact, when I was there living, my wife was born down the street from there. She told me, "What are you going to do in that neighborhood?" I said, trying to convince the board that what we're proposing is a reasonable use for the property. She said, "Well, it's been that way since she was born. She was born and raised in the house on 27 Bridge Street. So she knows that neighborhood better than I, and maybe some of you." It's been successfully used as a 2-family dwelling without any on-site parking for 30 years. So this is not going to create something new in the neighborhood. According to Belleville's tax history and building permit records, as I stated previously, the building has always contained 2 occupancies. And as I stated before, from 1920 to 86, it was a store plus a single dwelling unit. From 87 to the present, it's contained 2 dwelling units. And based on those factors, I believe the board has reason to consider and approve a C2 variance for that parking. And I offer that because it's better to have a 2-family dwelling with 2 informal parking spaces than to have a 1-family with no parking spaces. And that's just good planning. You can't provide 1 on site, you can't provide 2 on site.
Right, so
Yes.
why would you have none?
Why would I have what?
If you have an agreement, that's so good. I mean,
It's better than having no agreement to do
I
anything.
agree, so,
The agreement, you can't say the agreement is no good. The agreement is
I didn't say
valid.
that. I said if you have an agreement and you think it's that good, his analysis was better to have a 2-family with an agreement, right? 2 in the off-site, right? And so, tell me, you're saying if you get a 1-family, you can't have an agreement to park 2 cars off-site?
The intent of the zone, Mr. Valano,
I know the
is...
intent of the zone. The question I asked was, you still can't have the same agreement if you were to rent that house out to park the 2
You
cars
But
outside?
is that the highest and best use of the land? No, not in that multifamily zone, it's not.
You had also made, if I may, you also had made mention to undersized lots do not have the ability to
Provide
accommodate.
parking, right.
There's a lot right around the block from my house that was approved, it's 25 by 100. And
As a
there's
1-family.
still, undersized
family.
lot,
Right.
it's an undersized lot.
But it was designed that way.
What was designed then? No,
No,
absolutely.
You're misunderstanding.
Right, it was designed that way. So you just made mention that you cannot accommodate parking for vehicles in an undersized lot. You said that, I didn't.
You would have to demolish a portion of the house to do that in this particular location.
And is
I-
it practical to demolish a portion of the house where the width of the house is probably 20 feet?
It's only a 20-foot wide lot.
There's one other thing I want to point out here. Where we're alleging that there was a store,
We're not alleging, the records reflect there was a store.
where there was the store,
Correct.
and there may have been a garage previously. On your plans, you have it listed as a new bedroom. You're adding a bedroom there, according to this plan that I'm looking at.
There is no plan, I've said it, and I'll say it again, there's no plan to expand
I didn't say
this
expand the
whatsoever.
building.
Change rooms, people change rooms all the time.
Well, I'm just saying, that it's on the plan where the storefront was to now put a new bedroom. Also on the plans, it is showing from a side view that there is 3 sections to the house, just as they showed before. And where the alleged shed was originally, or what's showing as a shed on there, is where you have listed the back bedroom on the first floor. Yeah, see?
Again, that is not this application. The application is whether it's a one-family or a two-family, not whether there's an additional room on the first floor.
No, I think the application is, it is a one-family. Should we allow it to become a two-family?
That's the application.
That's the application. Let's keep it straight.
The application is whether or not it's a one-family or a two-family based on your decision whether to grant the variance or not.
In other words, where we want to grant the variance to allow it to become a two-family.
That's correct.
Legally.
That's correct.
But right now, legally, it's only a one.
That's what Mr. DiLorenzo's records reflect.
And that's what
Okay.
the client said he bought it as.
That's correct also.
I have one question about this timeline. Testimony said that from 1920 to 1986, it was classified as a store and a one-family structure. And from 87 to present, perhaps illegally, but it's been used as a two-family. I did some cursory research in business sites, the state business registration, and according to what I found, in 2006, according to the state of New Jersey, there was a pizzeria operating, Mario Pizzeria, operating out of 130 William Street. And then prior to that, in the early part of the last decade, it was used as an employment agency, United Staffing Solutions. So there were at least two business registrations, and that was confirmed by Dun & Bradstreet as far as the employment agency is concerned. So when you say that from 87 to the present, it's only been used as a residential section, I'm trying to reconcile that with the fact that the state of New Jersey and Dun & Bradstreet...
Well, we're only going by the Belleville records. I think we have a right to proceed
We're not
by
going beyond
Belleville
Belleville.
records.
We're talking what we were able to get out of the tax office, out of the building department. We're not talking about state records, which I can't validate. I didn't go that route, because that's something I can't present to the board as factual evidence. I can use your own records from the township. That's your records, not mine, not the state's.
I got to say one thing, a lot of speculation about one little building. We have records from the town as to what it's been.
Illegally.
What it's been. I didn't say it was legal.
Okay.
We have records from the town as to what
I
it
can
has
make my
been.
house illegally two-family. too.
But
Was it taxed as a two-family?
No, it's actually...
I don't think I've ever seen
And then they
this
would
board
catch it.
as speculative or as argumentative about a case instead of listening to what the testimony is.
All I'm telling you, Mr. Gassion, is you use that price and whatever it is with the...
Correct.
Price and lease.
Price and
Price
lease.
and lease all the time, and that's not a town document.
That's true.
Thank you.
But it's a Belleville document.
Not official
Not
government
an official
document.
record, it's a Belleville document. We kept the
No,
records in
no.
Belleville.
Don't use it's a Belleville document. It's a
It was
document.
a document kept for Belleville at the Belleville Library, keeping a record of all residents in the township of Belleville.
So
That's
you
what it
got
was.
something from the state of New Jersey. At least that's government.
Let's go.
Go ahead, continue.
All right, I think we're up to the testimony regarding variances, or are we completed?
Mr. Bowen, would you continue with your reasons as to why you think the bulk variance should be approved?
Yes. Well, I believe there are additional reasons for granting the bulk variances, Subject to the board granting its approval, the applicant proposes to enhance the exterior of the building by replacing the main roof, the front overhang roof, repair all damaged siding, repair or replace any non-working windows, paint the trim around the windows and the front door and the moldings, and sandblast the front brick facade to freshen its appearance. If the variances are granted, the applicant will upgrade the interior of the building to bring it into compliance with current building and fire safety codes. Now, that's not something that
Mr. Baumann, wouldn't he have to do that, whether we approve or not?
he wouldn't have to improve it to the two-family standard.
No, but he would have to improve it in order to either rent it or sell it to somebody.
If that were the case. I don't know what the intentions of the owner present
Yes,
are.
but Mr. Baumann, you have to bring it up to code, even to rent it to one family.
When you change a building,
Sure.
the requirements are different with regard to what you have to bring up to code and what you don't have to bring up to code. Mr. Di Lorenzo can...
I
That's
agree
correct.
with you there, if you're looking to change it to a 2.
If
But
we
even
get
if
an
you- if you
approval
keep
to
it as a
change to
1, you still have to
2,
bring it up
then
to
there
code.
would be different requirements.
You don't have any requirements. When you're changing ownership from one to one, it's a certificate of occupancy that goes to the building
Mr.
department.
Baumann, apparently you have not went and looked at the property.
I have
Because if
passed
you,
by.
well,
I
if you
didn't
went to
go
look at
inside
the
it.
property, you would know the whole first floor is stripped. There is only 2x4s there. That's it. There's nothing else there.
Okay,
So it would have to be brought up to code in order to have somebody live there. From now on, when you go hear a case like this, maybe you should ask the applicant to open the door and let you do an inspection of the building.
Can we move on?
well taken, sir.
Thank you.
Move on.
All right, reasons for granting, renovation, exterior, interior. That's where we were.
Anything further with regard to this and the residences in the area or any other aspect of this application?
Well, in the handout I gave you, there are 28 residences within 200 feet of the subject property. Of those, there are 12 properties having lot widths of 40 feet or less that contain either 2, 3, or 4 family residences. And of those 12 that I just mentioned, 5 have lot widths of 30 feet or less. These are all located in this block, 7601, and specifically they are lots 1, 17, 20, 21, and 22. Therefore, smaller lots containing 2 or more dwelling units is not uncommon in this very old section of Belleville. If the board approves the requisite bulk variances and allows the building to be used as a 2-family dwelling, it will be consistent with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. That's all we're asking for.
That completes the testimony of Mr. Baumann.
Any, yes, Mr. Mafucci, you have questions?
You said something earlier, I just want a clarification. On the William Street, lot 1, did you say there is no off-street parking?
No, that one has parking on Dow Street.
Okay, and lot 22?
That has no parking.
And 21?
No parking, and no parking on 20 either.
22, you said has
20
no
I
parking.
agree. 21 and 22 I did not agree, because I was there today.
According to my records, I didn't see any parking spaces. Now, there may be something that's unofficial without a curb cut, but I didn't see anything that gave me evidence to believe that there were parking spaces there.
The building to the right, 132. William Street.
Which lot number, sir?
That's lot 1, I think.
Is that it?
The corner property, Jerry?
No, it's the one directly to the right of it.
would be 22.
It would be 22. Lot 22.
Yes.
That says parking.
That says that there's a 3-car garage there,
You
on the
only-
document that you submitted.
Yeah,
Or
No.
that
No, it says
compliance
it's
with-
three-family.
It's a three-family.
Three family,
It's not a three-car garage, it's three-family.
three family
What
with
does this
parking.
say?
Three family.
Three-car garage
Thank you.
on 132.
On 132?
And what is your document from?
It's the one that you presented, it was the handout that you presented that's listed as evidence as A1.
I don't have that.
We didn't present it. I mean, we didn't present that tonight.
No, your
On that-
associate did at the last meeting in March.
What Mr. Baumann is saying is that it's a three-family dwelling that has no parking.
Yeah.
That's what he
John,
is
you look at
saying.
his document here, what he's saying, and it's marked in green, am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the
And
green.
it's a three family, but you also have a P in front of it. I assume means there is parking. There's no NP, there's a P in front of it. So you look real close, folks. He has letters. And I'm blind, and I can see a P.
The only thing he wrote in is the number 3.
No, you wanna see this?
I would like to, because I don't see that on mine.
I see it on P1Q.
Let me see it.
The white area.
I don't have that.
It says P right
Yeah,
there.
on my copy.
My copy says, there's
I
a
don't
P.
know where that one came from, Mr. Baumann.
P1Q is PQ. PQ.
That's the
Property in
lot we're
question.
talking about,
Yes.
PQ.
I don't have
Wanna see it?
that.
Do you wanna see
Yeah.
it? That's what you
There's
get.
also one thing I would like to point out. Of all the lots in that whole 200-foot circle, this one is the smallest.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is yours. So there's NP, P, NP, P. You guys gave it to me.
It's not on ours, it's on.
I don't have that.
No, sometimes I do take it.
That's the one you gave Willie, see?
Well, I gave him something that
Says P.
I can't
and that
stand
says-
by.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Okay. Let's see.
Any other questions? Mr. Mafucci, have any more questions?
No, that was it.
Does anybody else have any? Mr. Milano?
No, I'm done.
You sure?
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
I have one last.
Oh,
one last
okay.
question.
Go ahead,
Could you,
Mr. Shelton.
yes, could you explain again where the emergency gate would be located? I'm not quite sure what property is.
I wasn't party to the agreement.
The adjacent property owner that you obtained the approval from, where is that property?
Let's see.
On the corner of Dow and William, as pointed out to me by the client.
So it's lot number 1.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Any
Any
other
other
questions?
questions?
Nobody else has a question?
No,
Do you wish to sum up?
I do, for sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my client spoke to the pastor of the church and obtained approval to park 2 vehicles in the parking lot, one of their 2 parking lots, and that gives them access to 2 parking spaces within less than a block, as indicated in the letter of the pastor. There was a concern at the last hearing about property access. He has an agreement with the adjacent property owner, who, if the board requires, would obtain and sign an easement to allow the access. We have a letter from him. The use being sought is a permitted use in the zone. They are utilizing the existing structure. These properties were built in the late 1800s, a completely different area of town than we are familiar with today and how building is done today. Everything was on top of one another. In fact, you look at many communities, whether it's Hoboken or Brooklyn or whatever, they're attached houses. These are the net effect of having attached houses. We have to take a look at what the history is. It's like Washington Avenue, CBD. The CBD has very little parking because that's the way it was constructed back many years ago. The tax records and the records of the construction official's office reflect how it's been reflected on town records, and that's the records that matter to us. The permit history says 1920, store and dwelling. 1967, permit to renovate the roof. 1971, permit to renovate the store front. Tax history, 1940 to 1950 54. Store plus dwelling. 1965 to 1986. Store plus one family. Same thing. 1987, one family used as two families. Not legally used, but used as two families. Obviously, somebody converted the store into a residence at some point in the 1980s, done illegal. Should this application be approved, the witness and the planner have indicated the substantial aesthetic improvement that would be made to the property, and that exterior improvement would be a big plus. My client at the last hearing indicated he would eliminate the curb cut. That would add a space right in front of the property. If ever there's been a neighborhood that has similar uses in Belleville, this has them. Old, similar uses. The people first came to Belleville around the church, and that's where they lived, close to their church. And that's why we have tight, small buildings together without proper parking. We're 1 block from Washington Avenue. Mass transit's available. There certainly is a hardship of the property here. It has no property that can be acquired next door. It has no way to provide any parking on the site. My client has technically provided 3 parking spaces, agreed to eliminate the curb cut, agreed to get 2 spaces from the church property. No vacant land he can obtain. If ever a 2-family fit with the neighborhood, this fits. This is certainly not a 1-family zone. A 1-family does not fit in this location, and there are practically no 1-families in the entire neighborhood. I think there's plenty of support to allow this application to be approved. And I understand there's a sentiment here against it, and obviously the board has been argumentative. I'm not used to that and seeing that from a board. I don't think that's the normal way. You usually listen and ask perceptive questions. I think this is a good application. I don't take anything unless I think it's a good application. I think it fits with the neighborhood. I thank you for your time and attention.
I don't know where to start, but I'll start with,
The record should reflect there's no members of the public.
okay.
Oh, yes, there's no members of the public to give testimony because there's no public. Okay. I want to make sure that's on the record.
Obviously, no objectors to this application.
I wasn't planning.
Well, this took so long to reach, all the objectors went home.
Oh, yeah, were there objectors?
If there wasn't.
Hey, Jack, please stop that.
Well, go ahead.
So, I wasn't planning on addressing, whether we were separate from that, but I will. And I do suggest you go home and watch the first hearing on this, because we asked very poignant questions back then. And one of them was, when you bought the premises, were you aware it was only a legal 1-family? And the answer was, from your client,
Yes.
yes.
I understand that.
So that is weighted in my decision. So we're clear on that. So as you feel more argumentative, I think we'll rehash it. Now, that being said, I don't even believe that it really, if we left it alone, they don't even have enough parking legally, because you brought a document from the church, from a pastor, who could be gone tomorrow. With all due respect. And I admire the pastor for being neighborly, but that's not something that, because if he sells the home as a 2-family, that doesn't go with the sale of the house. You know that.
I do.
Right, so, to me, as you alluded to, we consider it, how much weight we give it, it's up to us,
Agreed.
right? So, again, I think it barely fits the criteria of a one family, never mind a two. The other part that I take disagreement with is, and it goes to Mr. Baumann, you know, we argue constantly on this board, and we're constantly reevaluating, and we constantly give variances, some with parking, some without parking, and, you know, we've made a conscious effort to really start to scrutinize the lack of parking within the township, old area or new area. And the only issue that I take is, I don't think that if I don't have to exacerbate an area with zero parking for this premises, I'm not going to. So it has zero parking for a one family, and I'm going to make it a two family. In my mind, it's still zero parking. I commend the fence opening. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it works. I mean, safety-wise, that makes sense. And I applaud your client there. But the parking has way more meaning to me, number one. And number two, I don't buy the argument that because it was used illegally supposedly for 30 years, that makes it right.
But it was used legally prior to that for two uses, just so we understand.
Yeah, I agree with the storefront,
Okay.
and I agree with the, you know, they lived above there, right? Now, what we all, I think, agreed to disagree on whether or not there was parking on there, because none of us were around. So I'm not even going to bring that into my thought process. My thought process is strictly about, am I exacerbating something? Now, I will tell you, you use the word hardship.
Of the property.
Of the property, right? Now, I want to make sure you're clear. You're not talking about a financial hardship.
Absolutely not. I said of the property.
Okay, I want to make sure we're clear.
If I go back to that, I might,
Yeah, you lose.
I would never argue that.
Okay, so my point is, I feel it doesn't even meet the criteria of a one family. I'm not in favor of this project. I've said that from the last meeting. I was very direct with your client. I was very honest with him about my skepticism about that. So I don't see it myself. Now, again, if my colleagues feel differently, I'm all ears.
I have a question regarding the current parking number tally, which is now up to 3. You said that you're going to achieve 3 by eliminating the curb cut in front of the building, but if I remember correctly, there's no parking on that side of the street, so whether or not there's a curb cut...
Well, the board requested, my understanding was the board requested that the curb cut be removed.
I don't remember.
I don't remember that either.
I don't remember
And
that.
see, that's what happens when you don't look at the video.
Well,
I don't
That's
remember.
what I was told by my
don't remember
assistant.
ever saying that. If anything, I said it should be turned back into a garage, which wouldn't want a curb cut to be eliminated. But to give it an extra parking space is not for the building, it's on the street, so anybody could use a
Anyone can
parking
use it.
space.
no question.
Okay, and the 2 parking spaces that you mentioned is the minimum requirement for one family. So you're not even getting enough for 2 families anyway. That's
Correct.
number 2. Number 3, this building allegedly was built in 1877 before there ever was a zoning law. And that is one of the oldest parts of the town. And that's why zoning laws were made. Because as things got worse and worse in being crowded, because back in 1877 there was no cars. So as things got more crowded, they developed laws to eliminate any problems that were happening in the neighborhoods. So that doesn't mean we're supposed to ignore
They
that.
weren't meant for pre-existing, they were meant for the new. Okay. I mean, we're debating this.
No.
The zoning laws were meant for the new, not for the pre-existing. The pre-existing are
Well,
permitted
the
to remain.
pre-existing, when it
The
was
issue
originally
is
built,
here.
was a one family.
The issue is here, the 2 uses were not residential uses. One was a commercial, one was a residential. The argument obviously is there were 2 uses. It doesn't hurt to continue 2 uses. And certainly a residential use is less demanding on a neighborhood than a commercial use.
I think a commercial use is less demanding on town services, which I think are even more important. than the neighborhood.
This is a zoning board.
Yes, this is zoning board. And let me tell you something else, Mr. Gassion. We're talking about zones. One families are allowed in multifamily zones. Two families are allowed in everything's allowed in multifamily zones. The question is, how big is it?
How practical is it to put a one family in a multifamily zone?
Why isn't it practical?
Because it's not marketable.
It isn't?
It's a problem.
Oh, I don't think it's a problem. I think a one family is one family.
We'll have a philosophical.
Well, I mean, he wants to argue one way, I could argue another. Anything. Any other members have any comments to make?
Say that it's not marketable, aren't you then saying that this is a financial hardship ultimately?
No, you don't want something left vacant. You don't want anything left vacant.
Well,
Period.
Mr. Gassion, if it isn't marketable, why'd your client buy it?
I had nothing to do with that.
Oh, well. But you represented him and he bought it.
Representing him on a variance application, not on a purchase.
All right, let's finish. Anybody else? Any other members of the board wish to give their opinion on the application? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion? To approve, disapprove the application?
Only question that's confusing,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve. Only question do it the other way, that yes and no.
With any conditions? So now you open it up to conditions if you're making a motion to
No, he
approve.
doesn't. He doesn't have to.
If it passes, then there's no conditions.
He doesn't have to make conditions. He can say, make a motion to approve. If he wants conditions, he can put it in
But
there.
if it gets approved,
I
then
understand.
there can be no conditions.
Well, then
Because you're
explain
approving it without conditions.
If it's a motion to deny, what vote means what? That's what it
If
is.
you make a motion to deny, a yes means to
Yes
deny.
means I agree with the denial.
Right,
Okay.
No
that's
means
simple.
I don't agree
Well,
with the denial.
we do have a new member, that's why I wanted.
Well, no, she understands it, she's a real estate.
Okay, all right.
I don't know what that means.
All right, then I'll make a motion to deny.
Okay.
Okay, a yes is for denial.
And he still need a second.
I still need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Smith. Okay. Do we need to do anything else before we make this one?
No.
Okay.
No, just roll call.
Okay, you could go. Roll call.
Casa,
Yes.
Bozak,
Yes.
Makuchಿ.
Yes, and Jerry mentioned a number of the reasons. Also, the person bought it knowing it was a one-family. It was undersized for a one-family, I could not approve it for a two-family, plus the parking. So it's yes to deny.
Sheldon,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Solana,
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. We have a second, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn. We have a second.
By acclamation, gentlemen?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.